Good morning, students. Today we are going to learn our third chapter from history, which is regarding the birth of Prophet Muhammad and spread of Islam. In this chapter, we are going to learn about how did the invent of Islam took place and how it was spread in various parts of the world and what were the important teachings of the prophets of Prophet Muhammad and what exactly were the words or the importance of Islam that brought about changes into this world. Now, to start with, it is said that in the medieval period in India, for about 8 to mid of 18th century, the history states about the spread of Islamic religion throughout the world and how it majorly influenced the Indian territory, and it spread over most of the other parts of the world in Western Asia, Central Asia, and the European countries. Now, the invent of Islam was considered to be taken place during the time of 570 CE, and it took place in a place known as Makkah, which is one of the important and holy places of the Muslims. Now, it started most probably with the birth of an important person, a prophet whose name was Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad. He was the actual founder of Islamic religion. Now, Prophet Muhammad was considered to be an orphan, and he lived with his uncle who was a businessman who was used to do trading business, moving from one place to another. And during his childhood, he used to Prophet Muhammad used to move along with his uncle and go about, travel in different parts of the world for trading and business purposes. Now, during his travel from one place to another with his uncle, he came in contact with many different people and started to get interest in religious activities and practices that were carried out. Now, it was considered that during the medieval period, that is early 8th to 10th century, the Arab was divided into two important tribes who were most probably in constant war with one another due to their beliefs, their difference of ideologies and teachings. And there were very too much of superstitious beliefs and theories that stated about the existence of God and their teachings and their images. They had difference in regarding to the worship system and the beliefs and theories that stated differently about the existence of God. Now, Prophet Muhammad grew up and spent his most of the time in prayer and meditation. And around in 600 CE, 610 CE, he had a vision of one of the angels that came, whose name was Angel Gabriel, who gave him a message about God, about the divine spirit and the existence of God. And from that period, he carried out this message of God or Allah to different part of the world and started teaching about his theories and principles in the city called Makkah. Now, he considered Allah to be the only God and he was his prophet. And the religion that was born from there was known as Islam. And Islam in actual sense means submission. Submissions toward the Holy Spirit, or submission to yourselves toward the God and his existence, and follow his principles and teachings and do good to the mankind. Now, there are various important teachings that is mentioned by Prophet Muhammad in a holy book known as Quran. It is one of the holiest book that is followed by the Islamic people. Now, the various principle as mentioned here is: number one, that there is only one God in existence who was called as Allah, and Prophet Muhammad was his messenger. Now, Muslim must pray 5 times a day. The third one is that they should fast and do their fasting during the time of Ramzan. It was considered as a holy month, which is practiced still today by the Islamic people. And most of the income that were generated out of it, certain parts had to be given as donations or charity to the people. And once in a lifetime, they have to visit the holy place whose name was, or the place was Makkah, and do good to mankind and preach peaceful activities that were related to the teachings of God Allah. Now here, there are certain things that he believed to be practiced in the life of Islamic people. He believed that people should not worship idols. He was against the worship of idols. And most probably he stressed towards the good deeds and behavior of mankind towards one another. And he prohibited the consumption of alcohol, which is considered to be impure. Prophet Muhammad, during his time, when he was preaching, it is said that he was even forced out of Medina, one of the other places in Arab, where he used to preach most probably. Then from there, he shifted himself to an important place where he moved towards Makkah, and he went towards Medina. And that travel from Makkah towards Medina was known as the Hijrat. The pilgrimage or the movement from Makkah towards Medina, when he was forced out of Makkah, was known as Hijrat in the historical event. And the people who followed this calendar of Islamic during this time which was made was known as Hijri. And when he went to Medina, it was said that most of the people who were there, he welcomed him wholeheartedly, and he was there for about 10 years preaching about these teachings and principles of Islam. He devoted his life towards the spread of Islamic religion to a greater extent that in 1630, when he returned to Makkah and he generated an army, before coming to Makkah, he generated an army. He had accumulated few people, and he had fought a war against the people in Makkah, and he conquered there, and he started preaching in Makkah when he returned back. Now it is said that Makkah and Medina, both these places, later on became an important place of Islam's, which was considered to be an holy place. And most of the people still now, when they visit Makkah, they also visit Medina as being the important place where Prophet Muhammad used to preach. Now in 1632, it is said that most of the people in Arab, they were converted to Islam. And after the death of Prophet Muhammad, Abu Bakr, he was his faithful friend and follower who used to most probably be with Prophet Muhammad and help him in preaching. He took over or became the successor of the as the religious head, and then he started preaching and spreading the knowledge or teachings of Islamic religion. Now, it was considered that as time changed, people started a system of kingdomship. So Abu Bakr, when he started to preach, he adopted the same concept where he considered or entitled himself to be as a Khalifa. Now Khalifa were considered as people who were successors of Prophet Muhammad, and they gave themselves as the title of Khalifa, considering themselves to be the head of the Muslim community, and they became politically and religiously very powerful people during that time. Now, how did on the later part the spread of Islam took place? It is considered that after Abu Bakr took the place of Prophet Muhammad, he started mobilizing in and moving towards different part of the Arabian states, and slowly and gradually he conquered various different places in Arabs and started converting people and making people believe that Islam was the only religion which existed in this world which was pure. Most of the people who believed in it, they converted themselves into Islam, and this is how slowly the spread of Islam or the religion Islam started to grow up. And they inspired many different people and various different territories such as Iran, Syria, central part of Asia, then northern Africa and Spain. Here in different part of the world, as they went across and started to invent and preach about the preachings and principles of Islam, most of the people started getting converted into this religion. Now, having conquered various different territories was not an easy work, and it took a very long period of time. Then there were various different places also that were considered to be built during this time. Now, as slowly and gradually they started invading different places, they started creating their own place or own states, and few of the states that were fine cities that were constructed during the time was Damascus, Baghdad and Cairo. Now these places became later on centers of religious activities, trade and as well as industrial development, where various different kind of civilizations started to develop. Now in the later part there were various different changes that took place. That is the invent of the Abbasids and the Umayyad dynasties. Now, as cultural activities started and tradition changed in various different parts of the world during the invent of the Islamic religion, the region of the Abbasids started to grow. Now, they were considered as to be the next caliphs which started spreading the principles and the knowledge of Islam in various parts. Then comes the Umayyads, who took after the Abbasids, who presided the Abbasids and established the capital at Damascus. The Abbasids shifted the Khalifa from Damascus to Baghdad, and which is presently known as one of the territories of Iraq. For the next about 150 years, the Arab Empire was under the Abbasids, and it emerged as one of the powerful and most prosperous and enlightened state during that time. Now, later part, more ideas, skills and scientific knowledge and development also took place during the time of the Islamic rule that was considered to take place in various parts of the world. Now, it is considered that various important people also emerged during this time, and they became important teachers, philosophers, who brought about a huge house of knowledge or wisdom in various parts of the world. Other than religious activities also, there were other studious kind of activities that started taking place, and in many different parts of the world, wisdom started to grow and civilization started to develop. You considered as Egyptian, Chinese, Indian, Persian civilization also got a lot of influence by this invent of this religion and the wisdom and the knowledge that they started spreading. And it has a lot of important heritage during the ancient world, which brought about a significant changes in the different part of the world. Now, what was the important that things that were absorbed by different part of the world, which was taught by the Islamic community? Now here it is mentioned that knowledge absorbed and assimilated by Arab scholars from different civilization. They not only spreaded about their own ideas, but they absorbed the ideas and theories and developments of the various different civilizations into them. Like the Chinese, from the Chinese civilization, they adopted the principle of art of making paper, technique of making glasses, use of mariner's compass. Now, what is mariner compass? Most probably, it is an instrument that gives, or when people go for a voyage in the sea or high tides, they use this compass as a route map to travel in the sea. Then the Greeks, they got knowledge about geometry. Then the Persian about the astronomy, and the Indian gave a very important significant influence in the Islamic community in regarding to mathematical theories, medicines, astronomy, philosophy, and administration as well. Now, what is the connection between the Indian and the Arab world? How these two different civilizations during the time which was flourishing came in contact with each other, and the exchange of knowledge, wisdom, and religious activity took place. Now, most of the Arab, when they used to travel from one place to another, it was seen that they started settling down in different western coastal part of Indian territory, and there were various exchanges of religious activities, and even there was intermarriage that started taking place, and this brought about a different kind of culture into the Indian civilization. Now, the exchange for Indian muslins, paper, indigo, etc. The Arabs brought luxury item and fine Arabian horses to India. Now, these were some of the items that were traded between these two civilizations during that time. Now, in most of the other Asian parts, it was seen that trade and exchange of religious activities took place, and most in Asian territories, this started spreading in a rapid way. Now, the old Hindu kingdoms of Malaysia and Indonesia declined and were eventually replaced by the Muslim dynasties. India's contact and influence in this region gradually waned. The invent of this Islamic religion and the people who started coming towards the Asian part, it also stated that the states which were earlier Hindu states, like in Indonesia, Malaysia, they were later on captured and they were converted into Islamic state, and they were ruled by most of the Muslim dynasty communities. Now, because of this only, there were various different changes that took place in the Asian part of the world where the invent of Islam took place. Now, we have the topics that we have studied here. It states that how in different ways, or which were the important people who brought about changes into the whole civilization by bringing about a new theory of religion which stated about the existence of God and the prevalence of different ideas and principles, and not only about religious activities that spread, it also spreaded a lot of knowledge, wisdom, which the Islamic community acquired into the different part of the world. And because of this, various different religious as well as cultural exchanges took place, which gave a significant development into the lives of the human community. Now, in the next class, we are going to learn about various important people in earlier part or the later part, how they brought about changes into the Muslim community and the spread took place, and how the important teachings and principles brought about various different scientific development also. There are various important developments that also took place during this time, which gave an importance into the whole history of human mankind, and how importantly this development of scientific researches helps, or it is having an importance in today's life. So this is all for today, and we'll be continuing this chapter in our next class. Thank you very much.